Starliner Media. Starliner Media presents Music Night at the Majestic with your host, Michael Boswell.
All right, it's time once again for Music Night at the Majestic, and with us once again, Chris Hillman. Chris, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me back.
Oh, it's great to have you here. As I told you before, you're one of my musical heroes. So, yeah, get a chance to talk to you on the show is a real treat for me.
Thank you.
Well, tell you what, last time we talked about Byrds, Burrito Brothers, and Desert Rose Band. So I thought this time, let's talk about all the music that you made. Well, can't say all, but some of the music that you made in between that period. But before we get into that, one of the things that you mentioned in your memoir, Time Between, is you had a Honda Superhawk.
I did, yeah.
And as a fellow motorcycle guy, that is a classic bike.
It was, yeah.
So let's diverge for the music for a moment
Sure.
and talk motorcycles. So tell us about the Superhawk.
Well, let's see. I had turned. I was living in LA. We'd moved to Los Angeles, my mother and my little sister and I, and literally just getting ourselves back in balance. And I was taking the city buses to go to work and go to night school and all that. And I finally had enough. I went and I bought a motorcycle, brand new Honda. I don't know why I went to the Honda first, but anyway, it was a cool bike. It was the Superhawk, and it was like a cafe racer, meaning it had low handlebars, and you were sort of hunched over as if you were, oops, there goes my earphone, as if you were racing in England or something. That's what those guys did a lot. There I am. Am I in there? Sorry. There. Hi. Okay. Are we there? Hi. Can you hear me?
I got you.
Okay, good. So I get the Superhawk, and it's a collectible now. I think that thing cost me $600, and I probably had a 2-year loan on it. I think my blessed mother co-signed on it. Off I went down the freeway with my mandolin. I'm not kidding you. I had a duffel bag with some clothes and a mandolin strapped on the back of that motorcycle. This is not a Harley. I didn't have big bars and stuff to hang stuff on, but it was an adventure, I must tell you.
Yeah. Now, did you get a bike after that one?
Yes, I did. In the Byrds, I got, prior to getting a car, I think I had a Volkswagen for a while, but I got a brand new Bonneville Triumph. And I bought this Bonneville from Bud Eakins Motorcycle down in the San Fernando Valley in Los Angeles. Bud Eakins, remember the movie Bullet with Steve McQueen?
Oh, yeah.
Bud Eakins did that slide. Remember the motorcycle going across the freeway in the car chase?
Yep.
Bud Eakins did that slide, and I don't think they wanted McQueen to do it because he was, of course, didn't want to get him hurt. But Steve McQueen did all the stunts in The Great Escape. Remember, he's jumping that, and there was a Triumph. Yeah, it wasn't a BMW, it wasn't a German bike, but so there you have it. I had a Bonneville. Crosby had a Bonneville that Peter Fonda had given him. I bought a brand new one. I swapped out the tank, the factory tank, and I got to put a candy apple red tank on there. That's about all I did to it. I had a great time. Yeah. And I sold that motorcycle to Rodney Dillard from the Dillards, who brought it back the next morning. I'm a little nervous on this bike. And it's funny. I said, I knew you would be. And I have your check right here. I put it on the wall. I knew he'd be back. I said, here's your check back. Take off. Anyway, that's bluegrass motorcycle story number one. Okay.
Now tell me this: did you ride with any of the other guys that you played with?
Later, Roger got a Honda 750. They came out with those in about 1970, 4-cylinder, nice bike, fast. So he bought one of those. I had one too for a while. No, we didn't really ride in that sense. I mean, it was I had the Bonneville for about a year or a year and a half, and then I bought a Porsche. Much more fun.
Yeah. Now, Graham had a BSA, right?
Parsons bought a BSA Lightning. Barely could hold it up. Now, a Lightning was a single cylinder, I believe. but Kickstart, great bike if you could handle it. But of course, the second day he owned it, he put it down. I'll never forget it. He's walking back to the house that we were sharing, and I see him walking down the street in this bright yellow BSA and legs all bloody. And I said, "What happened?" "Well, I just didn't hit the corner right." And I'm thinking to myself, you shouldn't even be riding a bicycle. So I patched him up, and we wrote that song Wheels in the Burrito Brothers. We've all got wheels to take ourselves away. So there's always something that comes out of never let a crisis go to waste. Was Rahm Emanuel or somebody who said that?
Yeah.
God. Anyway.
Yeah.
Onward.
Well,
So yeah, go ahead.
Getting back to the music,
Mm-hmm.
so because I know a lot of folks are interested in that, obviously. Manassas. Now, if I recall correctly, that actually was initially Stephen asked you to play, and that was going to be his third solo album.
That's correct. That is correct. And
how did that whole thing come about?
Well, we had run into each other, and I think he was playing in Cleveland. And I had the night off, and somehow I got hold of it. We got in, and we went and watched him play, and then I saw him after the show, and we were just catching up on old times. I knew Stephen since the Buffalo Springfield, of course, and then about 2 weeks later, I get a phone call from one of his guys saying, "Can you come to Miami and play, do some sessions? There's some country songs Stephen's going to do, wants to do, and bring your mandolin, guitar, etc." And I said, "Yes, I can." I went down there, and there it was, and it was fun. I always loved Stills. I just thought he was really at the top of his game in 1970, 71. I mean, he just had come off of doing CSNY, and then took that hiatus from the group and did his own stuff, which was very successful. He had 2 hit records, maybe 3. Mm-hmm. And a couple of albums, and this was supposed to be his third solo album, but it didn't work out that way. All of a sudden, we had a band, and after he had presented me with this unbelievable instrument, this mandolin that he gave me, Gibson 1924 Lloyd Loar F5 mandolin. It was so one of the most generous, beautiful gifts anybody's ever done. I mean, I've had some wonderful things given to me over the years, but that was certainly, it's right under my feet here, Mike, as safe as can be. But then he asked, "What do you think about doing a thing?" And it took me about 5 seconds to say, "Yeah, I'd love to do that." I mean, I had brought the Burritos back from the dead, believe me. And we had a great band. It was the live album we did, Last of the Red Hot Burritos, is one of my favorite albums. I've got Al Perkins playing on it and Byron Berline playing fiddle. We just lost him about 3 weeks ago. And it was just an incredible album. But at that point in time, I felt it was time to move on. And Stephen gave me that offer. Yeah, it took me 2 seconds.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I think in the book I wrote, he gives me this mantle, and I'm over the moon. I'm going, "Oh my God," And then the next day he says, "Can I talk to you for a minute?" I thought he was going to take the mandolin back that I'd messed up on the session, and that's when he said, "What do you think about playing in a band together?" And I went, "I think that's a pretty darn good idea right now." And off we went, and it was great. I had 2 wonderful years, Mike, with working with Stephen and those guys in the Manassas. Great guys, fun. Great musicians, and here's the best part: I was on my toes. They were such good players. I was really had to keep on my toes to stay up with them, and I learned a lot working with Stephen. We wrote some songs together. I just learned a lot of stuff from him, and guitar playing and things. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll tell you. Yeah, in time between, you've got some great stories. Yeah, about that period. So that if folks can get your book through your website, which we'll have scrolling throughout the show, that first Manassas album, double album with each side of the LP a different theme. Yeah. What a great concept. What do you recall about those recording sessions?
I had a great time. I mean, it was never a problem. I really played just rhythm guitar and mandolin when needed and sang. But no, I was just feeling my way around it all, and I really enjoyed it a lot. I thought the first album was great. I mean, that it had taken on a life of its own. What was going to be a third solo album, meaning one record, became two. And I think Stephen came up with the idea of these little segments, and it worked really well. I'm trying to think of the names of all those. I know my albums,
Yeah.
but anyway, it was great. It was a great record. The second album had moments, but there's some real validity to the second album jinx sometimes, and happens to all of us, where all of a sudden, if you have that success in there, the company is on you about get another record out, get another record. Well, we all forget as artists, we're into this creative thing, but we forget that it's a dollars and cents business. And, they want to make their profit and this and that. So sometimes you get into the second album and you're stumbling. You don't have the material already, and you sort of have to really stumble through it all. But there were some moments on the second album too. Yeah.
Well, the second album is a situation where if it hadn't been the second album coming off of that legendary first one,
Yeah.
I think people would have been more in awe of it, but that bar was set so high
Yeah.
that it'd be pretty difficult, for it to compete with that.
Yeah. But there were moments like Isn't It About Time is on that album, second album. Very good song. I love that. And things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, after that is when the Souther-Hillman-Furay project came together.
Let me add this too, Mike, that right as we were finishing the second album, Stephen was getting pressured to go back to CSN. Not CSNY, but CSN. And I think everybody was starting to feel it, like they wanted to get the thing back. And at the same time, a door opens, a phone call, and it's Souther-Hillman-Furay. The idea is presented to me, and I'm going, okay, and Manassas is over. Okay, I can understand that. You're going back with CSN. And then I get this offer to go with Souther-Hillman-Furay, and I'm going, okay. And I believe that was David Geffen had been the manager of Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and no longer was the manager, but somehow I felt that he decided I'm going to take three guys and make a super group too. It was a great idea on paper. It was okay. There were some moments in that band too. Not quite what Manassas accomplished, but it was good. I mean, I loved working with Richie and JD. It wasn't, we didn't develop that band. We didn't have enough time in the development stages. It was basically three singer-songwriters with a backup band. And it was okay. I mean, the band was great. Jim Gordon on drums and Al Perkins I brought from Manassas. I brought Paul Harris from Manassas. Paul was the keyboard player. Al was the steel guitarist and lead six-string player. Fantastic players. So they came with me to Souther-Hillman-Furay. So we had a great band, and I was playing bass full-time again. And when you got a drummer like Jim Gordon, I mean, it is, man, he's so good. He made me sound great. I was like, Paul McCartney or Jack Bruce or something on there. But yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what you mentioned. A great idea on paper was exactly my take on it. But the album still went number 11, and
really, wow.
Fallen, was a hit as well. So, but there's some nice songs in there as well. Then another trio effort, McGuinn, Clark, Hillman, followed that up, and the first album, long time, love that track.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I've been doing that in the show. Now, there was a period between the end of Souther-Hillman-Furay and working with Roger McGuinn and Gene Clark again, where I did two solo albums for Sugar Hill. I believe Richie Furay did a solo album, and J.D. Souther did one or two for Asylum Records too. We were all signed there, so we all had that opportunity. But which was good. It was a good experience for me. I hadn't done a solo record ever, so. once again, the first solo album was Slipping Away. That was pretty good. The second album, not so good. But working with Roger McGuinn and Gene Clark again, just an accident. They were working together as a duet, and then they had gotten a deal with Capitol Records, and then somehow I got included in there, which made the deal bigger, whatever that means. But I got to tell you, it was fun working with them again. It was familiar territory going back with them. We didn't call it the Byrds, but we did a lot of the songs from the Byrds. But Gene was writing great songs. Roger was. We all were writing good songs, and the band was really good. It was a good band. So I think a lot of it had to do with it. It was familiar. Here we are after so much success with the Byrds, and get back together for a couple of records for a few years. I thought the band was great. We played all over Europe, and we had Roger had a hit, The City, I believe, wasn't it? Don't you write her off like that. Roger had a hit. And I'd always used to say, this is a song Roger wrote about the IRS. Don't you write her? Anyway, whatever that my bad humor is. But that was a good band. I love that band. And from there, and we went as far as we could go. Gene had some issues. He had to leave. And then Roger says to me one day after the last tour of the East Coast, he says, I think I'm going to go out and play solo. I said, I think that's a good idea. And lo and behold, I was already thinking of the same thing of going back. I went back to square one and played the mandolin and worked with Al Perkins as a duet. We played bluegrass festivals. I loved it. I was back to the very first place I was in 1962 or 3 that I started in, and relearning it all from that aspect of it. It's very one-dimensional. And it was so it was really fun because we take that duet and make it bigger than it was. And then I ended up playing with Al and Bernie Ledden, who had left the Eagles. This is a good story, isn't it? And Jerry Sheff. Jerry Sheff had been Elvis's bass player, very good player. So it was sort of the Chris Hillman quartet or whatever, acoustic, and we worked a lot. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll tell you, to digress for a moment, Slipping Away, your the solo album that you mentioned. Couple tracks on there that have always stuck with me. Down in the Churchyard.
Okay. Yeah.
That, and then I love your take on Take Me in Your Lifeboat.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Those two were the songs that I mean, obviously, yes, the title track is good too. But Down in the Churchyard and Take Me in Your Lifeboat. Those are the two that really jumped out for me.
Lifeboat. We actually cut it around one mic, and Ron and Howard Albert produced the album. I love them. They worked with us in Manassas. He flew out from Miami to produce this record, the Slipping Away record. But I said, let's just cut this around one mic. And Ron and Howard hadn't done any bluegrass recordings ever, except with Manassas whenever we did that. But it worked great. That was the old style of doing it, old way of doing it. And so it was Byron. It was Bernie Ledden and Herb Peterson and Byron Berline, Al Perkins and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. Another solo effort, Morning Sky. Mm-hmm. On that album,
Mm-hmm.
You did a version of one of my favorite Waylon songs, The Taker.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Christopherson, Shel Silverstein track. I thought you had a really nice interpretation of that.
Thank you. Yeah, we put her in a little faster groove. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Jim Dixon found that for me. I wasn't aware of that song, but yeah, that worked out good. And I got we did a John Prine song. Gosh darn it, what's the name of it? It's the same old song, Boy Meets Girl. I can't remember the name of it, but John really complimented. He said, "Oh, one of the best covers ever on any of my materials Chris Hillman did." And I love that. And I can't remember the darn song now, the name of it, which is terrible, but
it's quite a compliment, though.
It was a great David Prine was so good. My gosh, what a great songsmith, lyricist,
mm-hmm.
great lyricist.
Absolutely. Yeah. Big Old Goofy World is a favorite album of mine.
Uh-huh.
So now getting into your other projects, you had an album that you did with Herb in 96, mm-hmm. Bakersfield Bound.
Yes.
That that was a really fun record. Tell us about that one.
Our budget was $8,000. Okay. If you're prepared before you walk into the studio, you can do things for not a lot of money. If you go into the studio and write the song at $300 or $400 an hour, studio costs, it sort of defeats the purpose there. So we were prepared. We had, once again, wonderful players, J.D. Maness and Bakersfield Bound was Willie Arnellis on drums and Larry Park. No, it was so much fun, and Herb's a joy to sing with, as you can tell. We really are connected. As Jerry Douglas says, you guys are connected at the hip or something, because you sure sing like brothers. But funny enough, I mean, Dwight Yoakam, bless his heart, has been playing a lot of the Bakersfield Bound album on his Bakersfield Beat radio show of his on XM Sirius. So that's nice to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then flashing forward, the Biden My Time album.
Mm-hmm.
How did that come together where Tom Petty, who is a disciple of yours, end up producing your record?
Well, Herb had been working for Tom, doing background vocals. Tom had done a Mudcrutch tour in, I think, 2016, a short tour. And somehow my name got brought up out while they were out on the road producing me or something. And Tom was all into it. And so Herb comes off the road. He's on a time off the road. And he says, you ought to call Tom up. I said, geez, I don't know if I want to make another record. I really don't know. He said, go call him up. And I sort of knew Tom, but I didn't really know him. I knew Tom since 1978, but I didn't see him all the time. So I call him up and I said, what do you think? He says, well, what do you think? I said, well, do you want to do this? He said, do you want me to? And I went back and forth to it where we were laughing. I said, well, I really would love to work with you. But I said, you haven't even heard any of my songs. I've got a few songs I haven't cut. And he says, I'm not worried. I said, I'm worried. I said, I don't know if you'll like them. He says, I'll let you know if I don't. I said, I know you will. It was a great conversation to start off this project. And off we went to his studio that he had in the San Fernando Valley. And we did the tracking there and started it out. I didn't know. I thought I was going to be doing an acoustic album, but it really ended up more electric, which was good. And in hindsight, Mike, I wish I'd have done more electric stuff on it, but it was fine. I always every record I've ever done, I go, gee, if only I'd have done, but I know he liked it. He was a great producer, fantastic. And in that 2-month period, boy, did we get close together. We really got to know each other and talked. We sat and we tell each other these old rock stories are great. And Roger McGuinn was very close with Tom. He had been on the road with him and had known him a lot longer. But I got to know Tom very well. And then along comes October of 2017, and I'm in Nashville promoting Biden My Time with John Jorgensen and Herb Peterson. And we hear Tom has passed away, and it was just devastating. It broke my heart. I was going to cancel the next 4 shows, one of which was going to have was in LA at the Troubadour, very well-known club in LA. And I was going to play the Troubadour, and Tom and the Heartbreakers were going to come in and play with us. Obviously that didn't happen, but I was going to cancel the 4 shows, and I get a phone call that day in my hotel room from Roger McGuinn. And I told him, he says, don't cancel those shows. He says, Tom, let me tell you something. Petty would not like it if you canceled those shows. Go out and play those shows for him. Go celebrate him through your music. And I said, you're right. Great advice. And I didn't cancel them. We went out and we played every night. It was for Tom. And when we went out on the road a year and a half later with Marty Stewart and Roger and I, and the Fabulous Superlatives, every night we do a Tom Petty tribute at the end, a couple songs. Marty would do Running Down a Dream, and Roger would do the one he wrote with Tom, King of the Road or something. King of the Hill. Yeah, King of the Hill. I'm sorry, King of the Hill. And then I would always sing Wildflowers because that was the one I sort of got attached to. But he was a wonderful guy. We all lost a good guy. I mean, he was the guy. He was He was the guy, and a ever so humble man. And you think he was a huge, huge star, huge. I thought the biggest guy in the country we had. All very humble, always wanting to help. He'd come out, he'd say, let me get that guitar for you out of my car. I said, what are you doing? You got people to do that for you. He says, no, I don't mind. Great guy. We all miss him, and that was it. It's just tough. And we've lost a lot of good people. Sometimes I think it's the territory I'm walking in my late 70s, Yeah, it's out there, but it's okay.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, it's nice to hear nice things about somebody who was so amazingly talented as Tom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wonderful man. And I've never heard a bad word. I mean, Stewart was on the radio the other night and going on about working with Tom and the Heartbreakers on one of Johnny Cash's last records he did with Rick Rubin.
Mm-hmm.
And we all loved him, just loved him dearly. And it's funny. It's the best thing. The last conversation, I think I wrote it in the book. I was thanking him profusely. I said, I can't tell you what it means to me for this. This is probably the last one for me. And thank you so much. He said, what are you talking about? I'm not done with you. I said, what? He says, well, no, I'm not done with you. I want to do a rock album and maybe a country album. I said, cool. I said, great. I'm there. Tell me. Let's go. And we didn't get to do that. That's okay. But that's a wonderful stamp of approval. If you follow me, I'm going, that he believed in me that much. That was great.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, I'm telling you this because I'm sitting there in awe of this man. I'm going, my God, who do I know that occupies this position in the world? One of the biggest musical stars we have. And yes, we had Bruce Springsteen and these wonderful guys, talented guys, but Tom was special. He was special. Anyway. Yes.
Well, Tom, what I liked about Tom is the fact that musically, he drew inspiration from some of the absolute best, and he always acknowledged who those influences were, but he was able to take it and create his own thing with those influences.
Absolutely right. Absolutely.
And he always remained true to what he did.
Yeah, very much so. Very true. And those guys would tackle any song they liked. Jimmy Reed, Bo Diddley.
Mm-hmm.
Is here. Oh, I'm sorry. I was talking to my wife. I think I might have to jump in a minute, Mike.
Yeah, I would say we're actually at our time here, Chris. So once again, I want to thank you for joining us here on Music Night. Throughout the show, we've had your website scrolling across the screen there, and at the website they can get all your upcoming tour dates, and get the memoir Time Between, My Life As A Byrd, Burrito Brother and Beyond. Obviously, I've read it. So it's a great read. So I highly recommend folks go to the website and get it. On that note, Chris, we'll wrap this one up. Everybody, thanks for watching. Chris, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Mike. God bless you, man. And thank you for having me on the show again, 2 times.
You are welcome anytime.
I'm honored. Thank you.
You are welcome anytime, Chris.
Thanks, buddy. Adios.
Right, everybody have a good night.
You betcha. Bye-bye.
This has been Music Night at the Majestic with Michael Boswell. If you enjoyed this edition of Music Night at the Majestic, follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and at musicnight.net. Music Night at the Majestic is a copyright production of Starliner Media. Any use of the accounts and descriptions of this program, its audio or visual content, without the express written consent of Starliner Media is prohibited. Thank you for joining us this evening. We'll see you next time for Music Night at the Majestic. This is your announcer speaking. Starliner Media.